Hello and a very warm welcome to Rajya Sabha Television. You're watching India Votes with me, Frank Pereira. Let's begin with the headlines. It was another hectic day of political rallies as Rahul Gandhi and Narendra Modi addressed multiple rallies across the country on Thursday. UP Police registers FIR against Congress candidate BABBAR for allegedly violating Model Code of Conduct. After expulsion from DMK, former party leader ALAGIRI meets sister KANIMOZHI after meeting mother Dayalu Amal on Wednesday. And for the first time in the history of the state, voters in Assam will be able to use voter identity cards during the Lok Sabha polls. Welcome to a brand new edition of India Votes. Of course, over the next 15 minutes or so, we're going to take you through the top political headlines in all the national dailies. And to do that, I have here with me the consulting editor of or editorial consultant of the DNA, of course, Parsa Venkateshwar Rao. Very good morning, Parsa, and welcome to the show. Well, for a change today, it's not political headlines that is the lead story that's in every paper. Cricket has managed to beat politics today, but we're here to talk politics, so let's talk about politics. Of course, the Hindustan Times going with this story: BJP's Tulsi Rani may take on Rahul in Amethi, and of course Uma Bharti to take on Sonia Gandhi is what this paper is saying. And of course, even the Times of India here talking about, will it be Uma against Sonia, Smriti versus Rahul? That's the lead political story in all the newspapers this morning. Of course, this is coming out of BJP sources, Parsa. Do you see that happening? Is that how it's going to go?
I think it's a very speculative story. At one level, I would even term it as fanciful, because if someone were to contest against Rahul Gandhi in realistic terms, he's a potential prime ministerial candidate for the Congress, then Narendra Modi should be fighting against Rahul Gandhi. And if somebody were to fight Mrs. Sonia Gandhi, the Congress president, then Mr. Rajnath Singh should be fighting against Mrs. Sonia Gandhi. But it doesn't work out that way. Unless the BJP wants to play some sort of a publicity game by pitching Uma Bharti and Smriti Irani, who are well-known lightweights. And the fact is, Uma Bharti has already been announced as the candidate from Jhansi. So I don't think that there would be any change in the constituency. And this is a very nice, interesting gossip item.
Gossip item, or is it mind games just before the elections?
I wouldn't know if it is a mind game, but it's not going to have any impact. I mean, everybody knows that both in Raebareli and Amethi, it's some sort of a pocket borough, like Baroda or Ahmedabad is a pocket borough for Narendra Modi. So each leader has they have their own citadels, political citadels, where they are unbeatable. So even to indulge in this kind of speculation, I think doesn't serve any purpose.
All right, speculative story is or could be a lot of speculation, is how Parsa is putting it. We'll leave it at that as far as that story is concerned. Let's move on to this interesting headline here in the Times of India. Vote for progress, dump corrupt is what the Election Commission is saying. The Election Commission, let's not forget, in the polls, the 5 states that went to polls in 2013 played a very crucial role in ensuring that the voter turnout was extremely high. This time around as well, the Election Commission has its work cut out.
I think the Election Commission has a difficult role to play. Strictly speaking, it has to conduct elections. Strictly speaking, it has to see that the elections are held in a fair, transparent manner. Now, can the Election Commission take on the an agenda or a propaganda style of saying that vote for progress or not for corruption? It might as well become a political slogan of any one of the opposition parties. I know the intention of the Election Commission. They are telling the voters, please keep away from corruption. And I think they should have stuck to that specific thing, that voters should not be tempted by any corrupt methods and they should be reported. I think this slogan is slightly misleading, because it could as well be a political slogan of any of the opposition parties.
It could be a political slogan. If someone has not already used it, they could use it now.
Very much, very much.
Another interesting headline, of course, it's Modi all the way, no plan B in the BJP, says the RSS. Jaitley was the first one to say that. In fact, a few days ago, he said that there is no plan B. It's going to be Modi all the way for us. And now the RSS also coming out and saying that we do not have a plan B. It is Narendra Modi for us all the way.
This has been in the making for a very long time. I think at least for 6 months, the RSS was quite clear that there is no plan B and it is Modi or no one else. And it is, as indicated in the story of Hindustan Times, the RSS also had indicated that if the BJP doesn't get the required numbers, then it should sit in the opposition, let an unstable alternative government function and then come back to power in the next midterm poll. Like they did in 98. 96, they could not get the thing. Of course, they failed to form the government and they tried. They don't want to do it this time. They are learning the lesson from 1996. If you don't have a majority, don't form the government. And apparently, the RSS is also keen that the Hindutva agenda should not be put on the back burner. That this time around is the only chance they have. They should stick to their own agenda and not put their core issues on the back burner.
All right. Hindutva core issues should not be put on the back burner is how you're putting it. Of course, I saw an interesting headline here in one of the papers. Of course, I think it is the Times of India, which talks about how the BJP doesn't field a single Muslim in Uttar Pradesh. That's the headline in Times of India. That's an interesting headline, isn't it? I mean, minorities, of course, make up a rather large, sizable chunk of the electorate in Uttar Pradesh. And here you have the BJP, of course, not fielding a single Muslim candidate in Uttar Pradesh. That's shocking, isn't it?
It works both ways. At one level, you can sort of pillory the BJP for not fielding a Muslim candidate. The second, a little more subtle issue is whether there is a Muslim candidate or not. If some of the Muslims or a small chunk of Muslims were to vote for the BJP, then it changes the equations altogether. This whole idea that Muslims can be represented only by Muslims, perhaps it breaks the myth. Ideally, what I would like to see is a Muslim being fielded in a Hindu majority constituency or a Hindu from a Muslim majority constituency, so that you break down these barriers. But it doesn't happen. This is utopian thought. But the inability of the BJP to project a Muslim leader is because their argument is twofold. One, you need a winnable character. I mean, somebody who can win the I mean, that is the criterion. And they don't seem to have somebody who has got that kind of, even if BJP fields a Muslim candidate in a Muslim majority thing, they feel that they would not be able to attract the Muslim votes.
Okay.
Where they are able to, like they have done Shahnawaz in Bihar, they think they are able to get through.
But what kind of a message is the minority community going to get from this? Because first, Narendra Modi comes out and says, you know what, Kejriwal is an agent of Pakistan because he is supporting the Muslims, he's going out with Muslims and something on those lines, and now this as well. So
I think Modi's statement is one of those provocative poll time statements. Even him, after the polls, everyone sobers down. You know, this is one of those things like what he said, Mia Musharraf in the 2002 Gujarat Assembly elections. So he indulges in that kind of a thing. It's some sort of aggressiveness which is uncalled for, which doesn't make any sense, and it is not going to win him any votes. I mean, BJP or Narendra Modi think that if you make anti-Pakistan statements in an Indian election, it does not win brownie points even. So it doesn't make any sense to me.
In fact, it puts you in the bad light, doesn't it?
It puts you in the bad light in publicity terms, and it alienates the Muslims much more. Because Muslims, the whole silly idea that the Muslims in India should have some sort of a connect with Pakistan is a very despicable idea.
Okay. And we were talking about Jaitley earlier, of course, and here you have it, another headline this time around, former Punjab Chief Minister, of course, Amrinder Singh, talking about it. Jaitley, architect of BJP's 160 club. It's an interesting headline, isn't it? Senior leaders humiliated in accordance with the game plan is what Amrinder is saying. So, I mean, he's going on to accuse Jaitley, saying that he's going to sabotage the elections for the BJP?
Yeah, this is one of the interesting stories going around. I think it has been in the air, but the one who has articulated is Madhu Kishwa, who said that there are people within the BJP who are trying to sabotage Modi. I think there are many fanatical Modi fans outside of BJP more than inside the BJP who see that Sushma Swaraj, Arun Jaitley and other people are standing in the way of Narendra Modi. I think this is the obverse of the other story which we had looked, that RSS has no plan B. This is exactly the reverse, that what happens, does political pragmatism require that the BJP look around and see what it can do if it doesn't get a majority and if Modi is an unacceptable face. But I think this Modi being unacceptable to NDA or to the allies is a myth.
It is, isn't it?
Yes. I think if there is any prospect of BJP forming a government, the allies will have no hesitation in going with Modi.
They'll probably get even more allies.
Yeah, they'll get more allies depending on the numbers.
Yes.
And Modi is as much a good politician who knows how to deal with allies. You know, we are in the media, there is a certain polarization being that Modi is inflexible, Modi is rigid and Modi is Hindutva. But Modi is also a clever politician. So I think that
He's a smart tactician, isn't
yeah,
he?
we underestimate that bit.
Of course, at that juncture, talking about the 160 club and everything else, of course, talking about how there is no plan B as far as the RSS is concerned. Now, where do some of these senior leaders really go? Where does a Jaswant Singh go? Jaswant Singh is already out now. Where does an LK Advani go? Where does a Sushma Swaraj go? Where does an Arun Jaitley go? Sushma Swaraj went to Madhya Pradesh and didn't utter a word about Modi there. So clearly there is a divide, maybe not wide in the open, but there is clearly some kind of a divide within the BJP.
There is a very natural power tussle going on inside the BJP, which is very, very good, I think, that Modi is still not the only leader and there are other people. But what the other people lack in terms is the kind of energy and mass popularity which Modi has built for himself on his own with no help from many people in the BJP. He travelled across the country, he is addressing too many rallies, which the others could have done, and I think there should have been a healthy competition, but unfortunately it has not happened. Of course, you can read all sorts of conspiracy theories as to why the others are being left in the cold and why Modi was promoted. Or Modi can himself argue, I was not promoted, I pushed myself into the front. It's an interesting game, but yes, I wouldn't say BJP is a divided house, but as much as in BJP there is an intense power struggle going on between the peer group, that is Modi, Arun Jaitley, Rajnath Singh, Sushma Swaraj, and between the generations.
Do you see it as healthy competition, or do you see it as something that's negative?
It has got a negative overtones, but I think it is inevitable, because in India we still haven't, the political parties have not yet developed a process by a competition among the peers, and the party decides. You know, there is an open competition and the party decides among the competitors. Those mechanisms have not been evolved in the Indian parties. Because Modi, remember, has been imposed on the BJP at one level, though there is a claim that the rank and file loved him, which is also true. So we do not, but there is no transparency in the manner in which Modi has been projected by the party. Had there been an election at some point of time in some fora, and then there was competition, say from the best forum would have been the legislature party. You know, if the parliamentary party had, and there are one or two, like what happened in 1966, when Morarji Desai and Indira Gandhi fought for the leadership. It was open, each one got their number of votes, and the person won in a clear-cut fashion. But that tradition somehow has got lost. Nobody competes, and there is a very unhealthy emphasis on consensus in the Indian political parties.
All right. So another headline now, of course, this is in the Times of India. This is BJP Naidu sought out seat share row and sealed deal. So the deal has been sealed there in Andhra Pradesh between the TDP and the BJP, something that the BJP would be looking forward to, of course, because
the BJP it requires all the allies it can get.
Yeah, and it doesn't have too much of a significant presence there in Andhra Pradesh.
None at all. In Andhra, they have none at all, except if they win 1 or 2 seats with the help of TDP, like Purandareshwari who has joined the BJP, if she has to win on the back of the TDP support, not on her own.
Certainly, certainly, of course. And finally, before I let you go, of course, Parsa, BJP likely to release its manifesto next week. What can we expect?
I think what we are hearing in the Modi speeches, I think that will form more or less the meat of the BJP manifesto.
Will it be similar on the lines of what the Congress did? I mean, or do you see it being
Yeah,
significantly
a lot
different?
of promises about job creation, about economic growth, and of course the rhetoric will be slightly different about taking India forward and making India strong. Whereas the Congress emphasis was on welfare schemes as much as on reforms. I think they maintained the balance. In the case of the BJP manifesto, the welfare measures would be promised, but the emphasis will be on the national glory.
All right, we'll have to leave it at that. Parsa Venkateshwar Rao, thank you so much for being on the show this morning. Of course, we'll slip into a short break, but we'll be back with much more on the other side. Do stay tuned. Welcome back. You're watching Rajya Sabha television. Well, in the first, voters in Assam have received their photo identity cards. Till now, they were forced to take some other document for identification for voting. The state government is lauding the local administration for the achievement. Here's more.
In a major move boosting electoral rights in Assam, residents have received their voter identity cards for the first time. In previous elections, people used to carry other documents on polling day to cast their vote.
Definitely, that is the greatest success in our tenure. We have been able to provide a voter ID card to every voter. You see, so it has given a little dignity, prestige to every individual. That is our greatest success we have done.
The recipients of the photo ID term it as an important step.
কামৰ কাৰণে যাম আমাৰ এইটোৱে প্ৰমাণ হ'ব আমাৰ এইটোৱে আমাৰ চিনাকি এটা থাকিব পাৰিম আমি কৰিবলৈ
प्रथम बार मिला है असम में एक हाथ हम ये लेके वोट भी दे सकते हैं सब कुछ हम लोग का सुविधा इसमें बहुत सुविधा है हम लोग पहले बार मिला है बहुत खुश हैं हम
Assam will go to polls in 3 phases. Security measures for the polls have been intensified to ensure peaceful polling.
We will be deploying the required amount of armed police as well. We've got 8 companies of Sikkim armed police from outside for the election duty, and we will be deploying force with our sector officers and zonal officers as well.
5 seats will go to poll on April 7th, while 3 will vote on April 12th and 6 on April 24th. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, battle lines are drawn as candidates in the Sirsa Lok Sabha constituency in Haryana gear up for polls on April 10th. The ever-changing political equations in the constituency make it an interesting fight.
With over 1,75,000 young voters in Sirsa and an ever-changing political equation, the Lok Sabha elections in Sirsa throws up an interesting contest. While State Congress Chief Ashok Tawar is trying his luck for the second time, the BJP-AJC alliance in the constituency has its hopes set on Haryana Janhit Congress's Sushil Kumar Indora.
मैं तो सबसे प्यार बना के जनता के बीच में रह के जनता की सेवा करूंगा और जो जनता की भावनाएं होंगी उसके अनुरूप मोदी जी प्रधानमंत्री बनेंगे और मैं एमपी बना तो इनकी भावना ले जाके उन तक पहुंचाऊंगा और वो सारे काम.
To boost its prospects in Sirsa, Haryana's main opposition, the Indian National Lok Dal, has announced the candidature of Charanjit Singh. Singh recently quit the Shiromani Akali Dal to join INLD.
ਤਾਂ ਹਜੇ ਤੱਕ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਸਿਸਟਮ ਠੀਕ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੋਇਆ ਨਾ ਤਾਂ ਉਹ ਅੱਜ ਤੱਕ ਕਿਸੇ ਪਿੰਡ 'ਚ ਬੜੇ ਆ ਵੋਟ ਮੰਗਣ ਵਾਸਤੇ ਆਲੇ ਐਨਐਲਓ ਹੀ ਪਾਰਟੀ ਦੇ ਵਰਕਰ ਹੀ ਵੋਟ ਮੰਗ ਰਹੇ ਆ ਕਾਂਗਰਸ ਦਾ ਵਰਕਰ ਜਾਂ ਲੀਡਰ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਜੋ ਖੜੇ ਹੋਏ ਆ ਹਜੇ ਤੱਕ ਉਹ ਵੋਟ ਮੰਗਣ ਵਾਸਤੇ ਨਹੀਂ ਆਏ ਕਿਉਂ ਨਹੀਂ ਆਏ ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਜਨਤਾ ਤੋਂ ਡਰਦੇ ਆ ਉਹ.
With elections drawing closer, Sirsa-based Dera Sacha Sauda has also assumed significance for all political parties and candidates. DSS enjoys a considerable following in Haryana, and the last time round, it has supported the Congress. Their decision on who to support in 2014 is still awaited. Palak Sharma's report from Sirsa for Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, Karnataka's Chikballapur seat will be witnessing a high-profile electoral tussle between Union Minister Veerappa Moily and the JDU's Kumaraswamy. Well, the district is also notorious for the quality of its drinking water. This is causing life-threatening diseases in many cities and villages. Here's a report.
60-year-old Dasanna looks much older than his age. He cannot walk. His body is racked by spinal ailments. Not only him, his children also suffer from serious dental ailments. Welcome to Chikballapur village in Karnataka, where the water table is rapidly falling every year. The borewells are yielding water with high levels of fluoride, slowly poisoning the villagers, making the agricultural land barren for cultivation.
फ्लोराइड से पामा आता बिंगेटिंग है बजे दांत ये गिरना अब उन्होंने बोले जैसे औरतों के लिए कमर का दर्द सुबह उठने होता नहीं सर का दर्द काम करने नहीं होता ये तमाम शिकायतें हैं
వర్షం తక్కువ ఇక్కడ బోర్ వేసినా కూడా వెయ్యి ఇంకా పైకి నీళ్ళు పడవు దాన్ని ఇంకా ఫ్లోరైడ్ ఎన్నో కొంచెం చిక్కుతాయి దాని చిక్క ఆ నీళ్ళు తాగితే అవి ఆ నీళ్ళు తాగితే బరీ నొప్పులు జాస్తి వస్తాయి ఇక్కడ పొద్దున్నే లేచేకి అయ్యలేదు 20 ఏళ్ళ పిల్లోడు 60 ఏళ్ళ వయసు వాళ్ళు అక్కడ అయిపోతుంటారు దాన్ని ఇంకా ఇక్కడంతా ఫ్లోరైడ్ అంతా ఇక్కడ కడతా ఉంది.
The acceptable limit for fluoride in drinking water is 1.5 milligrams per liter, but Chikballapur has 2.9 per liter. Drought is endemic. Successive governments under SM Krishna and under Devegowda promised water through river diversions from the Western Ghats. The present government started the Yetinahul project, but that is also mired in controversy.
This is a very serious problem. If you don't come out with some, substantial water supply program, within 2 years, perhaps the day will come when all these people in the five of the districts, including my district, will definitely, migrate from this district. That is the kind of a disaster we are facing.
The Chitravati river is a sole lifeline in the village, but it's hardly enough. Scanty rains complete a dismal picture, forcing the villagers to migrate to neighbouring Andhra Pradesh. The seat is represented by Oil Minister M. Veerappa Moily. The JDS is fielding former Karnataka Chief Minister H.D. Kumaraswamy from the constituency.
Drinking water is a minimum requirement for any human being for his survival. But for villagers in Bagepalli, with shortage of drinking water, they have to consume the water that contains fluoride, in effect of which many of the people here are handicapped. With camera person Manoj in Bagepalli, Rajkamal Rao, Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, the border between India and Nepal is fast turning into a security concern for India due to rampant Naxal activity seen in these parts. Border security forces have pointed out confirmed reports of anti-India activity by China on the Nepal side of this border. Here's a special report.
Poorer sections of this 631-kilometer-long India-Nepal international border under forested area of the Valmiki Tiger Reserve are a rising national security threat. Till a decade back, the area used to be a hiding, recuperating and training ground for Naxals operating in India, with plans to link it to the Red Corridor leading into Nepal.
I'm standing next to pillar number 394 on the India-Nepal border. I'm on the no man's land. It doesn't make a difference whether I'm in India or in Nepal because it's an open border, a friendly border. Behind me, as you can see, is Nepal, and I'm standing very close to the integrated checkpost site. The area is densely populated and very porous and difficult to manage.
Monitoring of the area by Indian security forces began in 2001. Naxal training camps and safe houses were removed, but the threat is ever prevalent, demanding a constant and close watch. With the Sashastra Seema Bal warning of a bigger game plan by China.
They are trying to influence the border population on the other side by coming out with China study centers, by trying to teach them Chinese language. Now, whether it is being done for some helping purposes to the the Nepal police or not, but we have taken this development on our borders with a pinch of salt.
Bordering districts of Bihar are the most immediately affected. The Naxals generate funds here by terrorizing locals and demanding levies. Reports say 25 lakh rupees are raised here every year for bigger activities within India. The issue is a huge concern for Indian security agencies, with any solution encompassing local policing, terror activity, international relations and more. Amritanshu Rai, Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, for more on this issue, watch our special program Naxalism Changing Tactics on Agenda 2014 at 10:30 p.m. tonight. Moving on now, Odisha's tourism operators are all set to turn the upcoming elections into a business opportunity, and what's more, the Election Commission fully approves of their unique idea. Take a look at this report.
Tourist operators in Odisha are finding the upcoming elections a good time to try out a new experiment. They're selling election tourism packages. Visitors to the state will be taken on tours designed to capture the election excitement.
This 2014 elections, with so much of campaigning going on with parties, we thought, why not we give an experience of the democratic process, the largest democratic process of electioneering in the country, coupled with the vibrant culture of the state.
The travel agencies have notified the Election Commission about their plans. The poll panel has commended the idea, while cautioning that it should abide by the Model Code of Conduct.
तो पूरी कहीं पे कन्वेंसिंग चल रही है या मास कैंपेन हो रहा है, बड़ी रैली हो रही है, ये जो कैंपेन के लिए डिफरेंट व्हीकल्स मूव कर रहे हैं और जो पोलिंग स्टेशन के बाहर भी जो हलचल है, ये सब उन टूरिस्ट को वो दिखा सकते हैं. तो इसको हम भी प्रोत्साहन देते हैं कि अगर वो इलेक्शन प्रोसेस को भी दिखाना चाहें टूरिस्ट को, तो ये बहुत अच्छा इनिशिएटिव है.
Odisha's tourist operators will be finding out just how interesting will visitors find the state's elections. Although the election tourism experiment has been earlier tried in Gujarat as well, operators say it had a great deal of success there. Panchanan Mishra's report from Bhubaneswar for Rajya Sabha TV.
With that, it's a wrap on this edition of India Votes. Thank you so much for watching. Have a good day.